From ZAP and others, January 7, 2017. First up from ZAP. Hi all. Another sleepless night later, and a few things have resulted that are very important. Firstly, a very large transaction totaling over 5 quadrillion has been set in motion. The meeting held yesterday confirmed this transaction, and it will be released about the middle of February. It will follow on the heels of the other transactions currently on the go, and will form a significant part of the global reset strategy. The AIIB is involved, of course, and several new banks with humanity in mind are being set up to perform the backbone functions of this release. It is a very large amount. Secondly, the funds for the RV have been there for quite a while, but they have not been released as yet. This one has to do with a few concessions that are forthcoming, and as soon as those are done, the RV will go. It is expected in the next couple of weeks or less. Thirdly, our transactions and transfers are okay, and first funds will be out to US by the middle of this coming week. Only some housekeeping details are left to be done, and they are small items that will be finished off quite quickly. In these releases, it is noteworthy to understand how bankers work on Mondays. On Fridays, the senior bankers go for lunch early, and they generally do not come back in the afternoon. When they come back to work on Mondays, they have executive meetings in the mornings, and either later in the morning or early afternoon, depending on workload, they have staff meetings. Once they finish with all executive and staff meetings, they go back to work and tackle the stuff they missed on Friday and try to catch up. For this reason, when you are doing anything significant with a bank, be aware of this particular peculiarity of the bank system and how this piece works. It may save you a red face or two. All is looking very, very good for our humanity at this point. Major things got accomplished in the last week, so chin up. Love and hugs. Love and light. In our service. ZAP. From Mike. Iraq can't use the dinar as a reserve currency. There are only 6 or so reserve currencies in the world: the US dollar, euro, pound sterling, etc. The definition of a reserve currency is: a reserve currency, or anchor currency, is a currency that is held in significant quantities by governments and institutions as part of their foreign exchange reserves. The reserve currency is commonly used in international transactions and often considered a hard currency or safe haven currency. Moving to Article 8 doesn't qualify a currency to be considered a reserve currency. It takes a large economy combined with a stable government who has a proven economic history of stability as well. Iraq is, if I'm a betting man, about 50 years from even being considered a reserve currency. Iraq's position is also different because the majority of their income is derived from petrodollars. These dollars are used to purchase dinars from the CBI by the MOF and used to pay their bills and salaries. Any leftover is absorbed by the CBI and become reserves. That's been Iraq's problem now for 2 years. They're spending more than they make and the reserves are cannibalized because of it. There are countries around Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Jordan, who've had active economies and stable governments for years, and they're not even sniffing reserve currency status. From Iraqi. January 8, 2017. Government measures to raise the value of the dinar and prevent monopoly sale at Iraqi governmental banking company. 2323. CBI is seeking to raise the Iraqi dinar exchange rate against the dollar in the domestic market during the next term in coordination with the government and private banks through several steps. In the forefront of the establishment of government banking company controls the sale of foreign currency by the central bank of the recommendations, as well as all other administrative steps, will contribute to the reduction of the high dollar exchange rate despite the infusion central bank large amounts of dollar to meet domestic market needs, but the government and the central bank's policy of relying on oil to bring in hard currency for the country may cause future economic problems in the country. And sees specialists that there is fraud of the documents under which banks and dealers get hard currency from the bank auction, and that befuddled the process of selling them in the domestic market, driving up the dollar's exchange rate against the dinar, and the security forces did not take any actions against the counterfeiters in spite of filing complaints, so the fact that most of them linked to influential political party hinder the application of the law, and there are expectations of an increase of revenues of hard currency due to improved oil prices, and this will have a significant role in increasing the supply of foreign currency on the domestic market and thus will increase the central bank's dollar selling to Mwatanown. Governing body outlets Central Bank Majid Picture says in a conversation with Iraqi Observer the central bank has taken several measures in order to raise the value of the Iraqi dinar, including the establishment of government banking company in collaboration with the Rafidain and Rashid, as well as the participation of Trade Bank of Iraq, and take this company upon themselves to sell the dollar operation in the domestic market in order not to monopoly by the banks that participate in the currency the central bank window, and continued the picture. There is a problem facing our work: forged documents under which the traders and banks get hard currency from the bank auction, and most of these forged documents in spite of the presence of ratifications commercial attaché offices to some embassies in Iraq. Strange that the security services did not take any actions against counterfeiters, because each link of influential political figures in the government. Suri predicted that there would be positive effects of the agreement to cut oil production OPEC on the Iraqi dinar exchange rate. He pointed out that Iraq's revenues in hard currency mates DAD, and this will have a significant role in increasing the supply of currency in the local market. For his part, the financial expert Punitive Hamid said in a conversation with Iraqi Observer that 80% of the $312 billion sold by the central bank in 12 years had been smuggled abroad. He added, 12 years ago to establish a central bank auction, it was sold $312 billion, and 80% of them turned out of Iraq. He explained, participants in the auction currency from banks and companies, their goal was to obtain hard currency at a lower price to be smuggled out of Iraq, after the submission of forged trade documents. And he demanded punitive government to change its economic policy on how to bring in hard currency for the country through the activation of the productive sectors in which to fill the local need in a surplus for export abroad and not to rely entirely on oil to finance Iraq's budget for the coming years. To that central bank sales of the dollar dropped in 2016 by more than $10 billion from a year earlier. The bank said in a statement that sales of the dollar banks reached since the beginning of the year 2016 and up to 31 of December $33,523,710,489. He added this amount dropped from what it was on the same date last year in 2015, in which sales reached $44,147,223,185. That's it for now. Enjoy.